He said he was straight. But that night, when the lights went out, he climbed into my bed. I know what you're thinking. How does a guy who swears up and down he's only into women end up literally crawling into another man's bunk in the middle of the night? Believe me, I've asked myself that same question 1,000 times. And the answer? Well, it's a lot more complicated than any of us expected. Let me tell you something. The barracks is no place for feelings. It's no place for vulnerability. It's concrete, cold steel, someone screaming orders at 5 in the morning, and a chain of command so tight you learn to lock everything down and just follow orders. But there's something about living in each other's pockets, sharing every moment of your day, every bit of sweat, every second of fear. That creates bonds most people never experience. My name is Lucas. I'm 23, and I've been in the Army for 4 years. I joined right after high school because, honestly, I didn't have much of a clue what to do with my life. My dad was military, my grandpa too. It was like the natural path, you know. And I won't lie, in the beginning, it was good. Structure, purpose, brotherhood. That's how I met Daniel. Daniel joined my platoon about 6 months after me. High and tight haircut, broad shoulders, that confident air of someone who grew up knowing exactly who they were. He was the kind of guy everyone admired instantly. Strong, decisive, funny when the situation allowed. The kind of soldier you want by your side when the shit hits the fan. We got close fast. When you spend that much time with someone, you end up knowing them better than your own family. Those sunrise runs where you only push through because the guy beside you is pushing through. Training that breaks you down completely. Nights so brutal you collapse in your bunk still in half your gear. Daniel became my best friend, my brother in arms. We developed this unspoken language only soldiers who live on top of each other have. One look and I knew exactly what he was thinking. A certain laugh, and I knew he was cooking up trouble. It was simple, comfortable, and I never ever let him see that I felt something more. Because I did. Since the beginning, I think. But in the Army, you learn very quickly to lock certain things deep down. You learn that some feelings are dangerous, that some truths can destroy everything you've built. So I kept it all stored away, locked up tight, and pretended that tightness in my chest when he smiled at me was just brotherly admiration. Daniel was straight. Or so he said. He talked about women constantly, about girlfriends he had before enlisting, about girls he'd met on leave. He was comfortable with it, natural. And me? I just nodded along, played the part, pretended I was interested in debates about who was hot at the bar. Everything changed when he was deployed. 6-month mission. Conflict zone. The kind of thing we train a lifetime for but no one really wants to face. I remember the day he left. We were in the courtyard, packs ready, and he gave me that tight hug, slapped my back and said, "Take care of my bunk, brother. I'll be back soon." I said he'd be back, that he was too strong for anything to go wrong. But inside, I was terrified. 6 months is forever when you don't know if the person you care about is coming back. I went through the motions, training, patrols, day after day. But there was always this void, his bunk empty and waiting, the quiet where his laugh used to fill everything. And then, on a Thursday in March, he came back. I was in the supply room, organizing ammo when I heard the commotion. Excited voices, hurried footsteps. I ran out to the courtyard and there he was. Dusty uniform, pack on his back, that tired smile on his face. Daniel. I ran toward him and we embraced right there in front of everyone. He smelled like sweat, dirt, and something unfamiliar. Something had changed. "Damn, Lucas, missed you, man." His voice was thicker, rougher, like he'd left a piece of himself over there and come back different. In the first few days after his return, everything seemed normal. We picked up our routine, training together, meals in the mess hall, conversations before sleep. But there was something different, something I couldn't name. Daniel kept looking at me. It was subtle. Nobody else would have caught it. But I did. Those stares that lingered a beat too long. The way he positioned himself next to me, closer than before, like he needed proof I was real. I tried to brush it off. I tried to rationalize. He's been through combat. Of course he's different. Of course he appreciates friendship more now. But my body was responding to something else entirely. It was on a Tuesday night that the first crack appeared. We were in the barracks, just the two of us. The other guys had gone into town, but Daniel said he wanted to stay. Rest. We were sitting on our bunks, facing each other, talking about nothing. He was telling stories from the mission. Light, funny stuff. None of the horrors I knew he had seen. And then, in the middle of a sentence, he just stopped, looked at me. A heavy silence dropped between us, the kind that steals oxygen from the room. My heart started hammering. I had no idea what was happening, or what it meant. "Lucas," he said, and his voice shifted. Quieter, almost fragile. "You matter to me. You know that, right?" "Sure, brother. You too." I tried to keep the tone light, casual, but my hands were sweating. He got up, walked over to where I was, and then he did something that caught me completely off guard. He reached out and put his hand on my shoulder. It wasn't a quick touch. Not like the casual slaps we always did. This was deliberate. Warm. His fingers wrapped around my shoulder and didn't move, and he looked directly at me. Close enough that I could see everything. The fresh scars on his face, the tired rings under his eyes, and something deeper, something that looked like desperation. "Seriously, Lucas, out there, things get very clear. You realize what really matters." I couldn't breathe right, couldn't think. All I could feel was that hand on my shoulder, hot against my shirt. Yeah, I get it," was all I could say. He held that position for another few seconds. Those dark eyes locked on mine. Then he finally let go. Walked back to his bunk, stretched out on his back, eyes on the ceiling. "We should get some sleep. Training's brutal tomorrow." "Yeah, you're right." But I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake in the dark, listening to him breathe from across the barracks, trying to make sense of what the hell that was. The next few days were more of the same. Little things. Him sitting next to me at meals instead of with the other guys. His fingers brushing mine when we passed gear. Stares that went on just a beat too long. I was losing it, because part of me desperately wanted it to mean something. But the logical part of my brain was screaming that I was reading signals that weren't there, that Daniel was straight, that I was projecting my own garbage onto normal friendship moments. Until that night arrived. Friday, weekend ahead, but we had decided to stay on base. We were tired. The week had been brutal. Most of the guys went out as always. The barracks were almost empty. Just me, Daniel, and two other soldiers who went to sleep early. We got ready for bed. Same routine. Brushing teeth. Stripping down. A few last comments about the day. Then lights out. The barracks went dark. Just emergency lights in the hallway throwing shadows between the bunks. I lay down, pulled the thin blanket up, shut my eyes. I tried to relax. Tried to drift off. But I felt it. That charge. The tension we'd been building all week finally crackling in the air. I heard Daniel shift in his bunk, metal creaking, sheets rustling. Normal, just him getting comfortable. Then I heard footsteps, bare feet, quiet. On the cold barracks floor, coming toward me. My entire body went rigid, every nerve on fire. I kept my eyes closed, faking sleep, but my heart was pounding so hard I figured he had to hear it. The footsteps stopped right next to my bunk. I felt him there, that warmth, that smell I'd know anywhere, and then the mattress sank. He was climbing in with me. And just like that, he was lying beside me in the narrow bunk. The thin, military-issue mattress barely fit one guy, so we were practically on top of each other. I could feel the heat radiating off his body through his t-shirt. My heart was pounding so hard I thought he had to hear it. "Sorry for cramming in here," he whispered in the dark. I can't sleep. The stuff I saw over there, it comes back every time I close my eyes." Look, that made sense. Tons of guys come back from deployment messed up. Nightmares, insomnia, needing someone nearby. It's normal. But out of everyone in this barracks, he chose me. Out of a dozen other bunks, why mine? The logical part of me tried to convince myself it was just brotherly stuff. Military solidarity. One guy helping another through trauma. But my body had a completely different reaction. I could feel every breath he took, the weight of his arm resting across my waist. Did he understand what that was doing to me? "It's cool, man," I managed to say. "Stay as long as you need." I didn't sleep that night. Every movement he made, every breath out, shot electricity through my whole body. And the worst part, I didn't want it to stop. That confusion, that exquisite torture of having him that close, but knowing he was unreachable. Because let's be real, he was straight. He had a girlfriend. This was just whatever. A moment of weakness. A guy falling apart after seeing combat. Or at least that's what I kept telling myself. When the alarm went off at 5, he was already back in his own bunk. Like nothing happened. And maybe nothing did. Maybe I was just creating meaning out of nothing. At morning formation, he was acting completely normal. Joking with the guys, bitching about shit coffee, making cracks about the sergeant. No awkwardness. No indication that anything had happened a few hours earlier. But me? I was falling apart. Every time our eyes met, even by accident, my stomach clenched. I was analyzing everything he said, looking for some kind of confirmation. Confirmation of what? Even I didn't know. "Dude, you good?" Silva asked during PT. "You look like you didn't sleep." If only he knew. "Nah, I'm fine," I said. "Just tired." But honestly, I was coming unglued. Because when you're carrying something you can't talk about, especially in a place like this, every single interaction becomes a minefield. You can't let it show. You can't let anyone see. It's like walking around with something burning inside your chest while keeping a completely straight face. The day dragged on. Drills, equipment maintenance, that military routine that usually calmed me down but today only heightened my anxiety. And then it happened. The showers. Look, a military shower room isn't a place for anything romantic. It's business. Quick. Everyone just trying to get clean and get out. That's how it's supposed to work. I was rinsing off when I felt eyes on me. That thing where you just know someone's watching you. I glanced over and yep, him. 3 stalls down, staring directly at me. This wasn't a glance. Not accidental. This was intentional. Held. And when our eyes connected, he didn't look away like a normal person would. He held it. For 3, maybe 4 seconds. Felt like forever. I froze completely. The soap slipped out of my hand. Then slowly, deliberately, he cracked that half smile. That damn half smile that could mean everything or nothing. Then, he just went back to washing, like nothing happened. I finished up in a daze, got dressed faster than I've ever moved, and got out of there before something in my face gave me away. What the fuck just happened? Did I imagine that? No, definitely not. But what was it? The rest of that day was torture. My brain on overdrive, trying to break down what each thing meant, building theories, demolishing them, going insane in the process. Then late afternoon, he approached me. "Hey, you free? Let's go for a drive. I'm going nuts being stuck here." He mentioned maybe a few other guys, so I figured, okay, no big deal. Just everyone getting off base for a few beers, clearing their heads. Normal stuff. But when it was time to leave, everyone started backing out. One guy had paperwork. Another got a call from his girl. Suddenly, it was just the 2 of us heading to his truck. "Perfect," he said, firing up the engine. "No one to complain about my shitty music taste." He cranked some alternative rock he was into, windows down, and we peeled out on the dirt road toward town. The sun was dropping, turning the sky that burnt orange you get in the desert. For a minute, I let myself just exist. The music, the wind, being away from base. We talked about stupid stuff. Movies we wanted to see, food we missed, plans for the next long weekend. Just regular conversation between 2 regular guys. For a moment it felt like maybe I was overthinking everything. Until he put his hand on my thigh. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a brush or a quick grab. He put his hand down there, solid and warm, and kept it there, on my thigh. While keeping his eyes on the road like this was completely normal. I froze completely. Stopped breathing. Every part of me locked onto that contact. The weight, the heat, his hand pressing through my pants. It lasted maybe 10 seconds. Could have been 20. Time broke. My mind just shut down. I couldn't process anything. Just felt. Then he pulled it away. Just like that. "Damn," he said, voice way too casual to be real. "Sorry. Instinct. Sometimes I slip up and forget I'm not." Shit. My bad. He was gonna say, "Not with my girlfriend." "Nah, it's fine," I managed. My voice was hoarse. But it wasn't fine. Nothing was fine. That wasn't some casual touch. That was deliberate. And the way he pulled back, the fake apology. That wasn't someone who did something innocent on autopilot. That was someone caught doing something they wanted to do but knew they shouldn't. The rest of the ride was thick with tension. Talk kept stopping and starting. He'd flip the radio on, jump stations, turn it off. I'd stare out at the desert we'd seen a million times, pretending it was suddenly fascinating. The cab of that truck felt smaller and smaller, more intimate, filled with things neither of us could say. When we finally rolled into town, we hit up this bar the military guys always go to, ordered beers, tried to act normal. But something had shifted. There was this charge between us that hadn't been there before, or maybe always had been, but now we couldn't ignore it. He drank fast, avoided meeting my eyes. And me? I was stuck in my own head, trying to decode everything. Because if he was actually straight, if that touch meant nothing, then why the guilt? Why the distance? Unless I was just seeing what I wanted to see. Maybe he freaked out because he caught me misreading things and didn't want to hurt my feelings. Did he know? Could he tell that I felt what I felt? "We need to talk," he said out of nowhere, snapping me out of it. My stomach dropped. "About what?" I asked, trying to sound cool and not showing a thing. He scanned the bar to make sure no one we knew was watching, then leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. "Not here. When we get back to base, there's this place. Old maintenance shed out back. Been abandoned forever. You'll meet me there? After lights out?" "Why not just talk now?" "Because we need privacy. Real privacy. No one can see us there. Will you come?" The way he asked it, the focus in his eyes, this desperate vulnerability underneath the careful tone. "Yeah," I said. "I'll be there." The drive back to base was silent the whole way. With every mile, my chest got tighter. What was he going to say? Call me out for staring? Set up some boundaries? Or maybe... No, don't go there. Hope was dangerous. It hurt worse when it fell apart. When he pulled up to base and killed the engine, we just sat there in the dark. He stared straight ahead, still holding the wheel. I watched him, waiting. "After lights out," he said quietly, still not looking at me. "The shed. Just... please come." He got out before I could say anything else. In my bunk that night, I stared at the pages of my book, but nothing registered. My brain was on hyperdrive. In a few hours, I'd either get answers or my entire world was about to explode. 3 bunks over, he was still awake. I could see his phone's glow hitting his face in the darkness. Our eyes caught in the mirror reflection a couple times. Then it was time. Lights out. Waiting for everyone else to crash. The minutes felt infinite. 11:47 when I finally climbed out of my bunk and moved silent across the cold floor. Jacket on, boots laced halfway, slipped out of the barracks like a shadow. The old shed was tucked back behind everything else. Rusted out, abandoned, forgotten. Nobody went back there. Nobody had reason to. I pushed the door and it groaned on its hinges. Inside was just moonlight through broken windows, and him waiting, standing alone in the middle of the empty space, hands shoved in his pockets. On his face was an expression I'd never seen before, a mix of terror and wanting and total desperation. "You actually came," he said, barely audible. "Yeah, of course I did." The silence that dropped was heavy. You could hear your own heartbeat. "I don't even know how to start," he said, voice lower than I'd ever heard. Not the command voice from drills. Someone completely different, raw, exposed. Just start anywhere, I said, trying to keep it steady. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. He raked a hand through his short hair, a nervous thing I'd never seen him do. That deployment, 8 months in Afghanistan. It was hell, but not because of what you think. I waited. Let silence give him space. It wasn't the fighting that almost destroyed me. Wasn't the patrols or the attacks or losing guys. It was the loneliness. Was waking up every day pretending to be someone I didn't even know. He looked up and his eyes had tears. The only thing keeping me sane was thinking about you. The oxygen just left my lungs. I wasn't prepared for this. Not these words. Not the raw pain underneath them. I'd be lying there in that dusty compound, middle of nowhere, listening to the other guys talk about their girlfriends and wives, planning what they'd do back home. And all I could think about was you. Your laugh when you think nobody's watching. The way you concentrate during rifle drills. How right it felt running next to you in the morning. He stepped toward me, just one step, but it shifted everything. I tried to tell myself it was just respect, just military bonds, the connection you get with someone you die for. His voice cracked, but that was bullshit. It was never just that. My hands started shaking. Everything he was saying, those were my exact thoughts. The same things I'd buried deep because they were too wrong, too risky, too impossible. You're not the only one, I said, my voice rougher than intended. I've been feeling this too, all of it. He looked at me with this mix of relief and pain. You have? Every single day. It came out before I could stop it. I'd look for you the second I woke up. I'd scan the cafeteria the minute I walked in. I made excuses to walk past your bunk, and I hated myself for it. Hated myself because I felt like I was the only one, like it was wrong, like I was betraying what it means to be a soldier. We were maybe 2 feet apart now. I could see his chest moving with each heavy breath, could see the pulse in his neck, could feel the electricity between us. This thing that had always been there but we'd never acknowledged. I don't know what I am, he said, voice splitting. I don't have a name for this. Don't know if it's right or wrong. Don't know how to handle it. But I know that around you I feel more like myself than I do anywhere else. And that scares the hell out of me. Tears were pouring down his face now. Not movie crying. Real crying. Someone who'd been holding this in forever. Who'd carried it alone through sand and blood and sleepless nights. It's okay to be scared, I said, stepping closer. We were maybe a foot apart. I'm terrified, but I trust you. You trust me? His voice was fragile, breaking. His question broke my chest. Completely, I said. Always have. Then something just clicked. No words, no plan. He reached out slow, giving me time to pull back. I didn't. His fingers found mine soft at first, barely touching, light enough to miss. But it wasn't accidental. Then our hands locked together, and it was like electricity shot through my whole body. Not sexual, not romantic in the traditional way. It was recognition, release. Finally not being alone in this. He pulled me closer, closing what little space was left. We were near enough now I could feel the heat coming off him. I could see everything on his face, the small scar above his eye from a training accident years back. The lines around his eyes from months in the sun. I don't know what we're doing, he whispered. I don't know what this becomes. Don't know where we go from here, don't know how we do this without torching everything we've built. Neither do I said. But right now, this is the most real thing I've ever experienced. He reached up slow and cupped the side of my face with his other hand. His thumb moved gentle across my cheek. It was intimate in a way that had nothing to do with bodies. It was being truly seen, being understood, being okay. I can't get you out of my head, he whispered, even knowing I shouldn't. Even knowing what it costs. You're just... He tapped his temple. Always here. I put my free hand on his chest, felt his heartbeat slamming underneath his shirt. I know. Same exact thing for me. We stood there in this moment that stretched infinite and collapsed into nothing, just existing in the space we'd made, this small pocket of truth buried under all the lies we had to live. Then he leaned in and pressed his forehead to mine, eyes closed, sharing the same air. And the whole world just disappeared. No rules, no consequences, no voice telling us this was wrong. "I don't know what I am," he said again, voice thick. "But I know I trust you. More than anything." "That's everything," I said. "Right now, that's all I need." We just stood like that. Foreheads together, hands connected, heartbeats matching. The most intimate moment I'd ever lived, and we hadn't even kissed. It was complete connection. Two people truly seeing each other. No masks, no performance, no fear. Then we heard it. Footsteps, right outside. We snapped apart like we'd been shocked. He stepped back fast and grabbed a wrench from the bench. I turned toward the tools, pretending to search. My heart was in my mouth. The footsteps got closer, stopped at the door. I froze, every muscle locked. If someone walked in right now, if they saw us. There was no explanation for this. None. 1 second, 2, 3. Then the footsteps moved on, fading away. Just someone walking past, probably heading back from the latrine. Routine patrol. Didn't matter. They were gone. But the spell was broken. The real world had crashed back in. "Fuck," he breathed, leaning against the bench. "Too damn close." "Way too close," I said. My whole body was still shaking with adrenaline. He stared at me across the shed. So much in that one look: gratitude, frustration, fear, wanting, confusion. "We can't keep doing this here. It's insane." "I know," I said. And I did, truly. If we got caught, it was over. Not just jobs, everything. But... He stopped, rubbed his face. "But I can't turn it off. I can't just pretend this doesn't exist." "Me either," I said. Might have been the scariest truth I ever spoke. We stood quiet for a moment, that admission hanging between us. We were stuck, between feeling something and what was allowed, between who we were and who we had to pretend to be, between truth and survival. "We have to be smarter," he said finally. "Way smarter." "Yeah." I moved toward the door, knowing we had to get out before luck ran out. But I stopped and looked back at him once more. He was watching me too. And in that look was a promise with no words. This wasn't finished. We couldn't pretend it hadn't happened. We'd crossed into something with no way back. "Tomorrow," he said, not a question. "Tomorrow," I replied. I opened the door slow, made sure the coast was clear, and stepped into the night. Cold air hit my face, shocking against the heat still radiating through me. Walking back to barracks, trying to look normal, my head was completely scrambled. Everything shifted. In 15 minutes, my whole world flipped. Or maybe not. Maybe nothing actually changed, and I just finally owned what was always there. Later in my bunk, staring up at the dark, I still felt his forehead against mine. Still felt the weight of his hand. Still heard his voice break when he said he didn't know what this was, but he trusted me. And I knew, with absolute certainty that terrified me, there was no coming back from this. No matter how risky, no matter what rules we were breaking, no matter the cost, we'd activated something between us that had been sleeping too long. And once it was awake, there was no putting it back down. I had no idea what came next. No idea how we'd do this without getting caught. No idea if we could survive carrying the secret. But I knew one thing. I wasn't alone anymore. And that changed everything. Those last 2 weeks before deployment were hell. Every secret moment felt weighted differently now. These weren't fun hidden encounters anymore. They were rehearsals for goodbye. Every kiss like it was the last one. Every hold like it was final. And I was stuck in my own head, battling myself. Part of me wanted to literally beg him not to go. Wanted to scream, "Stay! Pick us! Pick this!" But I couldn't do that. It wasn't right. He had to work through his own shit, make his own choices. And me? Losing him was terrifying. But so was being the reason he blew up everything he'd built. So I said nothing, showed up when we met, smiled, pretended it was all going to work out. Inside, though, I was coming apart. Then the last night hit, night before official deployment. He called and said, "I need to see you. One last time before this all goes down." The way he said it, I knew everything was about to shift. We met at the same motel as always. But when he walked into that room, I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Pure vulnerability, fear, confusion. He wasn't wearing that mask of confidence he always wore. He was emotionally naked even before taking off his clothes. He sat on the edge of the bed and stayed silent for a few minutes. I didn't force anything. I just sat beside him and waited. Finally, he started to speak. "I don't know what I am," he said, his voice cracking. "I spent my entire life knowing exactly who I was, knowing what I wanted, knowing my path. And then you appeared, and everything I thought I knew about myself turned to dust." I held his hand, said nothing, just let him continue. "I was always the guy with a girlfriend, the guy others came to for advice about women. The straight guy, you know? That was part of my identity. And now I keep thinking, was I lying this whole time? Was I deceiving myself? Or is this different? Special? An exception?" He looked at me with eyes full of tears that he was holding back with all his might. And I saw a man completely lost, trying to find a map in unknown territory. "I don't care about labels," I said softly. "I don't care if you're gay, bi, straight with an exception, or anything else. It doesn't change what I feel." "But I do care," he replied, frustrated. "Because I need to understand. I need to know who I am. I'm going to be called up. I'm going to hell knows where. And I'm going to spend months, maybe years, thinking about this. Thinking about you. Trying to figure out what the hell is happening to me." He stood up and started pacing the room. I could see the tension in every muscle of his body. The internal war-fighting battles I couldn't fight for him. "You know what's scarier?" he continued. "It's not what others will think. It's not losing my family or my friends or my reputation. It's that when I'm with you, I feel more like myself than I've ever felt with anyone else. And that is terrifying, because it means maybe I've never really been me before meeting you." He stopped in front of me, breathing heavily, vulnerable in a way that broke my heart. "I love you," he said, and the tears finally fell. "I don't know what label to put on this. I don't know how to explain it to myself or anyone else, but I know I love you. And that's the only truth I have right now, the only thing that makes sense in all this chaos." Man, how do you respond to that? How do you match a confession so raw, so honest, so completely vulnerable? I stood up and held his face in my hands. I wiped away the tears with my thumbs, and I spoke the truth I had kept hidden for so long. "I've loved you since before I understood what love was," I said. "Since the first day I saw you, since the first time you smiled at me. Since every stolen moment, every risk we took, every second I thought, this guy is going to ruin my life, and didn't care one bit." We kissed, and it wasn't like the other kisses. There was no urgency. There was no desperation. There was acceptance. There was truth. There were two men finally admitting what they felt without fear, without shame, without performance. That night was different from all the others. It wasn't about sex or adrenaline or risk. It was about real intimacy. It was about two human beings allowing themselves to be completely vulnerable with each other. It was about love, in its purest and most terrifying form. We stayed up until morning, talking. About everything. About nothing. About fears and hopes and possible futures. He talked about the deployment, about the fear of dying without having lived authentically. I talked about the fear of losing him, of being forgotten when he was far away facing real battles while I fought only against loneliness. "When I get back," he said as the sun began to rise, "we'll figure this out together. I don't know how it's going to be. I don't know what will happen, but we'll figure it out. Together." And I believed him. In that moment, I really believed him. But then came the morning of departure. And the reality of the situation hit us full force. The military base parking lot. Hundreds of families saying goodbye. Wives crying. Small children not understanding why daddy is going away. Proud fathers shaking hands with sons in uniform. And the two of us standing there, having to pretend we were just colleagues. There couldn't be a long hug. There couldn't be a goodbye kiss. There couldn't be a whispered, "I love you." It had to be a firm, masculine, appropriate handshake. It had to be a performance until the very last second. But when he shook my hand, he pressed his thumb against my palm in a caress so brief, so subtle, that no one else would have noticed. Our secret code. Our way of saying everything we couldn't say out loud. "Thanks for everything, man," he said in a normal voice, for anyone who might be listening. And then, so quietly that only I could hear, he whispered, "When I get back, we'll figure this out. Together." I nodded, forced a smile, and watched him get into the convoy, watched the truck drive away, taking him far away, to war, to the unknown, maybe forever. And I stood there, alone amidst hundreds of people, feeling the deepest emptiness I've ever felt in my life. I went back to the empty barracks, sat on my bed, and stared at the phone, knowing it could be months before I heard his voice again. But I had something I didn't have before. I had the truth. I had his confession. I had the promise that when he got back, we were going to figure this out together. Would it be enough? Would he come back? Would we really have a chance? I didn't have answers. I only had hope, and fear, and love. So much love that it hurt. And the following months were the longest of my life. We exchanged letters. Not emails, not text messages, real letters, handwritten, that took weeks to arrive. He wrote about the unbearable heat of the desert, about the mechanical routine of patrols, about how he counted the days looking at the photo I had given him before he left. A photo of us, taken that night at the lookout. We weren't kissing in the photo, but anyone who looked closely could see the truth stamped in our eyes. In my letters, I told him about my life without him. How I had started attending an LGBTQ+ support group off base. How I had told two close friends about the two of us, and how they had hugged me and said they already suspected it. How I was learning to take up space in the world without apologizing for existing. With every letter from him, I saw the transformation happening on the other side of the world too. He wrote differently, less defensive, less angry. Once, he wrote, "Here in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by sand and people pretending to be made of iron, I realized something. Courage isn't not having fear. It's having fear and choosing to love anyway." I read that letter about 20 times. We managed to video call every now and then. Terrible connection, freezing image, but just seeing his face on the screen, even pixelated, even with a 3-second delay, my chest tightened in a way that hurt and healed at the same time. In one of those calls, he looked thinner, more tired, but with a different sparkle in his eyes. "I'm counting the days," he said, his voice breaking over the bad connection. 62 days until I'm back. 62 days until I see you for real." "I'll be at the airport," I promised. "Front row." "I know," he replied, smiling that crooked smile I knew so well. "You always are." When his plane finally landed, I thought my heart was going to explode inside my chest. The airport was packed with families, flags, welcome signs. I was in the middle of the crowd, no sign, nothing. Just me, hands shaking and stomach churning with nerves and anticipation. When he appeared in the arrival hall, crumpled uniform, heavy backpack on his shoulder, hair shorter than I remembered, I forgot how to breathe. Our eyes met across the crowd. And even with all those people around, even knowing we couldn't kiss there, even knowing we had to keep up appearances, the look on his face said everything I needed to hear. He walked toward me, slowly, like he was savoring every step. When he got close enough, he dropped his bag on the floor and hugged me. Tight. Tighter than would be appropriate for two friends reuniting. But I didn't care. I sank into that hug like a drowning man. "Missed you," he murmured in my ear, his voice raspy with contained emotion. "Every damn day." "I know," I replied, hands clutching the back of his jacket. Me too. We pulled apart before it became a topic of gossip, but on the way to the car, our fingers brushed 3 times, little purposeful accidents, silent promises that the wait was over. At the motel, because we weren't ready to get an apartment together yet, but couldn't pretend we didn't need privacy anymore, the door had barely closed, and we were already all over each other. It wasn't like the first time. There was no hesitation, no fear, no shock of, is this really happening? It was different. It was urgency mixed with familiarity. It was 6 months of longing condensed into desperate hands and hungry mouths and bodies that remembered exactly how to fit together. He pushed me against the wall and kissed me like he was trying to make up for all the lost time. And I let him. I surrendered completely to that moment, to that kiss, to that feeling of finally being whole again. Afterward, lying in the messy bed, sweaty and breathing heavy, he held my hand, intertwined our fingers, and stared at it like it was the most important thing in the world. "I've made a decision," he said, his voice low but firm. My heart raced. "What decision?" He turned to look me in the eye. "I'm tired of hiding, tired of pretending you're just my friend, tired of living in fear that someone will find out about the best thing that ever happened to me." I opened my mouth to answer, but he continued. "I'm not saying we're going to walk around base holding hands tomorrow. I know it's not safe. I know it could end our careers. But I also know I can't take living a double life anymore. Half of me pretending to be one thing, the other half hidden in motels and coded letters." He squeezed my hand tighter. "I want us to be real, however we can, at whatever pace we can, but real." Tears burned my eyes, not of sadness, of relief, of happiness, of recognition. "I want that too," I whispered. "More than anything." He smiled. That open, defenseless smile I had seen so few times. "Then we'll figure out how to make it work. Together." And we did. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't easy. But 3 weeks after that conversation, we were sitting in a circle of plastic chairs in a borrowed church room, surrounded by other men and women in uniform. Some active duty, some veterans, all there because they understood the weight of serving the country while hiding a fundamental part of who they are. It was a support group for LGBTQ+ service members, discreet but existing, safe but brave. When it was my turn to speak, I looked at him sitting beside me. Our presence there together was already a statement. Everyone in that room knew, and it was okay. "My name is..." I started, and for the first time, I didn't feel the need to omit anything. "And this here is my boyfriend." He took my hand, in front of everyone, and didn't let go. That was the moment I truly understood what courage means. It's not the absence of fear. It's looking fear in the face and choosing love anyway. It's knowing you might lose things, might face consequences, might have to fight hard battles, and still deciding that living in truth is worth more than living in the safety of a lie. Today, almost a year later, we still serve. We're still careful, but we're also happy. In a way I never thought possible. I learned that labels don't define love, that masculinity and vulnerability aren't opposites, that you can be strong and sensitive, tough and in love, soldier and boyfriend, all at the same time. He taught me that some battles are worth fighting, and that the scars we carry from choosing authenticity are more honorable than the medals we'd win living a lie. If this story touched you in any way, if you saw a piece of yourself in it, I ask one thing of you. Share it. Comment. Leave your mark. Because somewhere out there, someone is going through what I went through. There's someone sitting in a locker room, afraid that the light in their eyes might betray the truth. There's someone thinking they have to choose between being who they are and doing what they love. And that person needs to know they aren't alone. That love doesn't need permission to exist. That courage isn't the absence of fear. It's being afraid and loving anyway. We are here. We survived. We are happy. And you can be too. Until the next story. And thank you for staying to the end of this one.